Islam and the West. Ideas and peoples, distant and so very close. 1400 years ago, Muhammad converted the peoples of Arabia to the faith in the one God and became leader to millions. The book he gave the world changed history. No religious movement has ever grown so fast. A great culture, a vital set of beliefs, confronting and enriching its neighbors for almost 14 centuries. Islam. Gibraltar, the closest point of Africa and Europe. The name comes from its Arabian conqueror, Jebel Tariq, Tariq's mountain. In May 711 in southern Spain, a new chapter begins for the people of Europe. King Roderigo's lookouts make an unsettling discovery. Foreign warriors on Spanish territory, unlike any seen before. But the rulers here are themselves not Spanish. They're Visigoths, migrants from distant Russia. A message reaches the king at his capital, Toledo. Roderigo trusts in his God to defeat the foreigners. His authority is weak. A victory over the invaders is just what he needs. His scouts say, "We cannot tell if they fell out of the sky or if they grew out of the earth." Today we know this was Tariq, and he had come from Morocco with 12,000 men. According to legend, Tariq burned his ships after crossing. He will conquer Spain or die. The two armies meet close to the Guadalete River in Andalusia. This battle will decide the fate of the Iberian Peninsula for centuries to come. The king's Christian army is much bigger than the enemy force. But it is roundly defeated. Roderigo is killed. Within a few years, Tariq's successors will have conquered all of Spain. They bring their beliefs with them. The Prophet Muhammad and the one God they call Allah. 1300 years ago, this is almost impossible for Europeans to grasp. La ilahi illallah. There is no God but God. The Muslim creed. Jews and Christians too believe in the one God. Islam is founded in the region where the Jewish and Christian religions also emerged, the Near East. In this lonely landscape was born the belief in a God who has no form. The Jewish holy book, the Torah, tells of a man who discovers God and submits to his will. This is Abraham. He's said to have lived 2,000 years before Christ. To test his faith, God gives him a terrible order: to sacrifice his beloved only son. Horrified, Abraham prepares to obey. At the last second, God orders him to stop. Abraham's unconditional obedience to God's will makes him a key figure in the Jewish, Christian and Muslim faiths.
Es glauben ja alle drei prophetischen Religionen, die sich auf Abraham berufen, an den einen Gott Abrahams. Und das ist wirklich derselbe Gott. Allah ist der Name für Gott, auch für die arabischen Christen. Wenn sie zu Gott beten, beten sie zu Allah, der Schöpfer und Vollender des Menschen.
But the life of this great common ancestor also contains the seeds of conflict. Abraham is an old man when God first foretells the birth of a son. This seems impossible, for his wife Sarah is too old to bear a child. So the slave girl Hagar will help Abraham fulfill the prophecy. She brings his first son, Ismail, into the world. But then Sarah too becomes pregnant. A drama of jealousy seems all too likely. That's how the Bible tells it. God forces Abraham to banish Hagar and Ismail into the desert. But this story exists in another version. In the Quran, Abraham doesn't banish Ismail, but goes with his son to Mecca. Today, the greatest place of pilgrimage in the world. Every Muslim should come here once in his life. The faithful want to get close to the Kaaba. This cubic edifice was constructed in biblical times, according to Muslim tradition. It gained its importance because of one man, Muhammad. No one knows what he looked like. Muslims have always been reluctant to portray him. If ever he's represented, the artist avoids showing his face and surrounds his head with a flame. The flame of divine inspiration has become the symbol of the Prophet. Mecca, in the year 600, a bustling trading post on the caravan route that crosses the Arabian Peninsula from south to north. A busy world of merchants and traders. Muhammad grows up and works here, learning a trade that fits his surroundings, moving and selling goods. Precious goods like incense, wool and salt, from southern Arabia to the cities of Syria. He's from a good family, but orphaned and with no money. All that changes with marriage. Khadija bin Khuwailid is a wealthy 40-year-old widow a respected citizen of Mecca. She proposes to the 25-year-old Muhammad. For him, it means social advancement and the start of a happy relationship that will bring 7 children. Just 4 daughters will survive him.
فالمرأة العربية في السابق أيضاً كانت أول سيدة في الإسلام هي السيدة خديجة. هي أول امرأة في الإسلام كانت تاجرة، وكانت تجارتها كبيرة تجوب ما بين مكة وما بين سوريا وما بين الشام والحبشة.
But the wealth of Mecca's citizens does not depend solely on trade. Close to the market, there has been a place of pilgrimage since ancient times, Al-Kaaba. Several different gods are worshipped here. At the site where a black meteor supposedly landed, a shrine has been erected. In fact, ancient Arabia was home to a whole panoply of gods, representing the forces of nature, fertility, or the weather. The Jewish and Christian traditions are well represented too.
Es gibt einen Verfasser eines Buches, Al-Azraqi, der davon berichtet, dass in Al-Kaaba nicht nur Bildnisse von den Heiden oder heidnische Bildnisse da waren, sondern auch Bilder von Jesus, Maria, den Engel und Abraham.
And this is why Arabia is bordered by 2 mighty empires, the heathen Persian Empire and the Christian Byzantines, vying for control over the whole of the Near East. The Byzantine Empire is a glittering civilization. Christianity has long been the state religion. The empire's theologists gave the faith the form it has to this day. The Arab merchants come to know the Byzantine world on their travels. Their caravans deliver incense from southern Arabia to the churches of the Near East. They come across mighty towns and great monasteries, like St. Simeon's in Syria. They know nothing like this in their world. And these merchants don't just return with rumors of legendary riches from distant lands. They also import Byzantine Christianity to Arabia. And the Near East isn't home only to Christians. Arab merchants also come into contact with Jews living throughout the Byzantine Empire. So the merchants bring back Jewish stories of the Torah, the tradition of Adam, Abraham, and Moses. Different religions coexist peacefully in Mecca. Each Bedouin tribe worships its own deity at the Kaaba, so there's no let-up in the steady stream of pilgrims. It makes for a regular source of income for the people of Mecca. But a man lives among them who will knock all these gods off their pedestals. He's 40 years old, a successful transport manager. And according to his biographies, he makes regular offerings to the gods of Mecca. Once a year, he withdraws to a nearby mountain to meditate for a month and atone for his sins. And this is where it happens. The event that will change his life and later the world. One night, so it is told, a strange man walks into his camp. Only later does Muhammad realize that this was no man, but the Archangel Gabriel. The angel has a message for him, a text from God. And though Muhammad cannot read, he is able to understand the message. The meetings continue for 20 years. Then the revelations are complete. The birth of the Quran. For Muslims, Muhammad is not its author, but the recipient of a divine message.
القرآن لم ينزل بالكتابة، لم يكن كتابا نزل هذا الكتاب من السماء، ولكن القرآن خطاب من الله عز وجل إلى النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال نزل به الروح الأمين هو جبريل على قلبك لتكون من المنذرين بلسان عربي مبين. فالقرآن نزل بالتلقي، فتلقاه النبي محمد عن جبريل وعن رب العزة.
That's why, for faithful Muslims, the true Quran can only be written in Arabic. Just a few years after Muhammad's death, the texts, written down on hides and palm leaves, are collected, ordered, and copied. And since that time, the Quran has hardly changed. The Quran consists of 114 surahs, chapters of unequal length. For faithful Muslims, they contain the rules for a life pleasing to God. These are the 5 pillars of Islam. A Muslim should bear witness to the existence of God, pray several times daily in a particular way, fast in daylight hours for 1 month of the year, give alms to the poor, and once in his life make a pilgrimage to Mecca. He should harm no one and tell the truth. He must shun gambling and alcohol, be faithful in marriage, and look after his family.
There is no complex creedal formula in Islam like there is in, say, Catholicism, a recipe of faith that you have to accept in order to become part of this, institution. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is God's messenger. That is the sum and total of Islamic theology. After that, like Judaism, Islam is an orthopraxic religion, so it's the things that you do that make you a Muslim.
These ethical demands, tied to the requirement to believe in one God, make the new religion distinctly unpopular in Mecca. Muhammad's furious campaign against the heathen gods stirs up a hornet's nest. This well-known local merchant has become a dangerous troublemaker, out to ruin the lucrative pilgrim trade. Muhammad can count on few allies, chief among them his wife. It's clear from the earliest accounts that she is the most important person in the Prophet's life. Now she offers him comfort and sanctuary in the face of the opposition of the people of Mecca, who slander him as a madman. She is the first person to believe his message. Muslims still call her Mother of the Faithful. To the end of her life, her high social standing will provide him with protection. But when Khadija dies, Muhammad's position in Mecca becomes untenable. In 622, he quits his homeland with a few faithful followers. A defeat that will turn into his greatest triumph. That's why the Hijra, Muhammad's exodus, is counted as the beginning of the Islamic calendar. Muhammad moves to Medina, 300 kilometers away. where his message will fall on more fertile soil.
Mohammed wusste, dass die Situation politisch in Medina völlig verfahren war. Das heißt, es herrschte Streit und Krieg zwischen den Stämmen in Medina. Und man benötigte einen Schlichter. Und Mohammed wurde dort als Schlichter willkommen geheißen. Und das begründet seinen großen Erfolg, den er auch als Staatsmann dann hatte.
His charisma allows him to reconcile the warring Bedouin tribes. Muhammad gives them a common faith and a book of laws proclaiming equality for all. Medina is the kernel of a new civilization. Medina in Arabic means town, the town of the Prophet. This is the second holiest place after Mecca for pious Muslims. Where nearly 1400 years ago, a persecuted minority grew into a mighty movement. Muhammad unites the tribes under his command and crushes opposition by force. But he knows his success can't last unless he can gain control of Mecca, Arabia's economic and religious center. A few years after his escape, Muhammad returns at the head of an army and conquers the town of his birth. He's merciful to the inhabitants, for his goal is a permanent alliance of Bedouin tribes in the Arabian Peninsula. For that, Mecca is the key. The Arabian desert has witnessed the birth of a movement that will change the world. Its followers are inspired by a prophet who has become a powerful general. His vision has immediate political consequences. By unifying the Arab tribes, he has created a nation and established a third center of power in the region. The Arab peoples now come into conflict with the region's older powers, the Persian Empire to the east. To the west, the Byzantine Empire, with its capital, Constantinople, where the skyline is dominated by the Hagia Sophia Church. This is the symbol of Byzantium's claim to be the true protector of Christianity, the Church of Sacred Wisdom. But the empire is waning, weakened by its struggles with Persia. The Persian armies drive deep into the Byzantine Empire and even lay waste to Jerusalem. The Persian kings call themselves the Sassanids. Their tombs advertise their overweening self-confidence in their divine right to power. This relief shows a god passing a ring to the emperor, the symbol of his claim to rule the whole world. In this intensifying struggle between the great powers, the winners will be the Arabs. Muhammad's death in 632 does nothing to slow their momentum. Arab armies surge northwards. It's a mass uprising fueled by religious zeal. That's one theory. Or is there a simpler explanation?
Das waren natürlich keine selbstlosen Kämpfer. Ja, das waren Beduinen, die auch geraubt und geplündert haben. Ja. Stellen Sie sich vor, das sind arme, ausgehungerte Typen, die da kommen. Und plötzlich sehen die da grüne Oasen, grüne Plantagen an den Flüssen entlang und so und Wasser, Wasser, Wasser. Ja, für sie in unvorstellbaren Mengen.
And water in these times is even more precious than usual. One of the most extreme droughts for 10,000 years has made life in Arabia almost unbearable. The Arabs push on into Syria, a land running with streams and rivers, part of the Fertile Crescent. 636. The Byzantines send a mighty army to halt the Bedouin advance. The two forces meet on a plateau overlooking the Yarmouk River in the borderlands between today's Syria and Jordan. The Bedouin warriors should have no chance against the battle-hardened Byzantines, but the imperial army has a flaw. It's made up of units from many different nations, including Christian Arabs, facing an enemy who speak their own language. They change sides and seal the doom of the Byzantine force. Two years before, the Arabs had taken the Syrian capital of Damascus. As they push north, they're clearly not regarded as enemies. The citizens of Damascus simply open the gates to them. The bishop takes over leadership of the city and surrenders. The conquerors prove surprisingly civilized. Instead of laying waste to the city, they hand over a contract. It guarantees the Christians freedom of religion and protection in exchange for a fixed rate of tax. And it's less than the Byzantines had charged. The bishop himself is perfectly happy. He stays in office and no longer has to deal with the plots of the Byzantine emperor. The Muslims will build a great mosque in Damascus. This was once a holy Christian site, a shrine for the last remains of John the Baptist. Muslims worship this Christian saint too. Perhaps that's one reason Islam is relatively welcome here. Christians don't necessarily see it as a new, separate religion.
Mohammed hat gesagt, bringt keine neue Religion, sondern das ist Fortsetzung von allen Religionen vor ihm, von Adam bis Mohammed. Deswegen hat Mohammed Christentum und Judentum akzeptiert.
Adam, Abraham, Moses, Solomon, above all Jesus, names the Quran cites with reverence, all valued as prophets and heralds of the true faith. One of Muhammad's first biographers tells a fascinating story from the prophet's youth. It's set in Bosra in Syria. In the 7th century, this is a teeming provincial city in the Byzantine Empire. The young orphaned Muhammad accompanies his uncle Abu Talib there on a business trip.